So hello and welcome everyone to this tutorial session. In this video, we will understand how we can use control statements in Python. So we start off this video by understanding what are control statements and how we can generally use them in Python. Then we will discuss different types of control statements. So these different type of control statements includes conditional statements, loops, and jump statements. Now for this video, we will try to understand how we can use conditional statements in Python, and we will cover different type of conditional statements that are generally used. So without any further delay, let's jump on to our first topic and discuss about control statements. Now control statements are generally available in almost every programming language. Now the main role of these control statements is to manipulate the flow of execution of a program. So basically in Python, the flow of program goes from top to bottom. But what if we want to run a block of a code a certain number of times, or we want to execute a block of code based upon certain condition? In that cases, we generally use control statements. So if I show you the execution of a Python program is basically executed sequentially. It means firstly the first statement will be executed, then the next one will be executed. So the program execution will start from line 1 and it will sequentially goes to line 5 and execute each of these lines. But what if we want to change this execution flow? So in that case, we use control statements. Now in Python, we generally use three different types of control statements. First is the conditional statements, second is the loop, and third are the jump statements. So let us understand each of these different control statements in more detail, and we will start discussing about conditional statements. Now there will be many real-time situations when we need to take some decision, and based upon that decision we need to perform some activity. So for example, I want to buy a laptop. I went to a store. Now the decision to buy my laptop will depend upon the price. So if the price of a laptop is more than 50,000, then in that case I will not buy the laptop, and if the price of the laptop is less than 50,000, then we'll surely buy the laptop. In the same way, there will be many scenarios in programming where we need to execute certain block of code based upon certain condition. So conditional statements are those statements which help us in making decisions based upon certain conditions. Now what will happen if we use a conditional statement? It will first pick a code of a block and evaluate certain condition. Now if the condition turns out to be true, then the code of block will be executed, and if the condition turns out to be false, then the block of code will not be executed. Now, Python offers variety of conditional statements for the implementation of decision making in program. Now, here is the complete list of conditional statements that we can generally use. So first is the if statement, then there is if else. After this, there is elif statement. Now, we can also use nested if, and in the last we will discuss how we can use shorthand for if as well as if else statement. So let's start with the very first conditional statement, that is if statement. Now in Python, the if statement is one of the basic conditional statements used for decision making. And in this, if the given condition turns out to be true, then the code of a given if block will be executed, else it will not be executed. Here you can see a flow chart. First, a condition or an expression will be evaluated. Now, if this condition turns out to be true, then the code given in the if block will be executed. And if the condition turns out to be false, then the code given after the if block will be executed. Now here you can see a simple syntax of using the if statement. So first we need to use the if keyword followed by the expression of the condition that we want to evaluate. Then we need to use colons to define the block. Then we need to define the code within the if block, and we have to give indentation for that. So for indentation we use 4 spaces. Now let's use this syntax to implement an example. So here we can see an example. So what we are doing in this, first we are using this input function to take input from the user. Now we are taking age as an input from the user. Now age will be of integer data type. Now after taking the input, we are storing it into this variable user underscore age. After this, we have taken another variable, that is voting eligibility, and we have set its value to false by default. Now here we are using the if statement. So if user age is greater than or equal to 18, then this voting eligibility will be changed to true, else it will remain false only. And in the last, we are using the print function to print the voting eligibility. So by this function, what we are doing, we are taking age as input from the user, and based upon the age, we will tell whether the user is eligible for voting or not. So let me execute this cell. Now here first I need to enter the age. So let me put 32 first. And if I hit enter, you can see it returns the result, voting eligibility true. Now let's again run this cell. This time I will put the age less than 18. So I put 16 as input. And if I execute, here you can see the voting eligibility is false. So I hope with this using if statement is clear to you. Now let's move to the next topic and discuss about if else statement. Now there will be many instances when we wish to take one path if the expression evaluates to be true, and when the condition is false we want something different. So in such cases we generally use the else block with the if. So in if else statement, if the given condition within the if block is evaluated to be true, then the code given in the if block will be executed. But if the given condition turns out to be false, then the code given in the else block will be executed. So here you can see the flowchart of this if else statement. So first we will evaluate certain condition given in the if block. If the condition turns out to be true, then the code inside the if block will be executed. And if the condition turns out to be false, then the code inside the else block will be executed. And here you can see the syntax of using if else statement. First, just like we define our if statement, so we define if statement. Just after the if keyword, we have to define our condition or expression. Then we need to define the body of the if block. Just after this, now out of the indentation of if block, we use else. And just like we have defined the body of the if block, we can define the body of the else block. Now let us understand this thing with the help of an example. So here you can see an example related to if else. So in this example, what we are doing, first we are using this input function to take input from the user. Now this input will be of integer type. We are simply taking a number as an input from the user. Now we are storing this input in the x variable. After this, we are using this if else statement, and within the if we have specified this expression. So what we are doing, we are simply checking whether the given number is multiple of 5 or not. Now for this, what we will do, we will divide x by 5 and we will check whether it returns any remainder or not. If the remainder is 0, then the number is a multiple of 5, and if it does not return 0, if it returns any other number, then in that case the given number will not be a multiple of 5. So let me execute the cell first. So first let me put 30. So we all know 30 is a multiple of 5. So here you can see the result, the given number is a multiple of 5. Now let's again execute this cell. This time I will put 22. So if I execute, you can see the given number is not a multiple of 5. Now with this, I hope if else statement is clear. Now let's move to the next topic and discuss about if elif statement. Now what we are doing till now, we are defining only one condition, or we can say we are evaluating only one expression using if else. But what if we want to evaluate multiple conditions or expressions? So in that case, we can use elif statement. Now the role of this statement is to help us evaluate multiple expressions and run a code of block if one of them is true. Moreover, both else as well as elif statement are optional to use in Python. And in Python, we can use only one else statement, but we can use multiple elif statements altogether. Now here you can see the working of elif. So very first will be the expression given in the if statement. So the condition in the if statement will be evaluated. If it turns out to be true, then the code inside the if block will be executed. Now if the condition turns out to be false, then the condition given in the elif block will be evaluated, and based on that, that code of block will be executed. So here you can see the syntax of using the elif statement. So first we start off by specifying the if statement. So first we use this if keyword, then we need to define the expression within the if statement, then the body of the if statement with indentation. After this, between if and else, we can use elif. So we first use this elif keyword. Followed by this, we need to define the expression that we want to evaluate for this block of code, and then we need to define the body of the elif. So in the same way we can define multiple elif statements that we want. So let us understand this thing with the help of an example. So here you can see an example. So in this example, what we are doing, we are taking marks as an input from the user. Now the marks will be out of 100. Based upon the marks, we want to return the grade of that student. So if the marks are greater than 90, then the grade will be A plus. If the marks are less than equal to 90 and greater than 80, then the grade will be A. And if the marks are greater than 70 but less than equal to 80, then the grade will be B plus. And if the marks are greater than 60 and less than equal to 70, then the grade will be B, else the grade will be C. And in the last, what we are doing, we are returning the final grade. So within this block, what will happen, the based upon the input, it will set the value of grade only once, and when we use this print statement, it will return that value. So let me execute this cell. So let me first put 65 and hit enter. So the final grade is B. In the same way, let's execute one more time and put marks as 92, and you can see the final grade comes out to be A plus. Now let's move to our next topic and discuss about nested if statements. So in Python, we can easily utilize multiple if-else statements within another if-else block. And this implementation in programming is generally referred as nesting. So we generally use nesting when we need to evaluate same expression multiple times. So here you can see the workflow of nested if statement. So very first we are evaluating the condition given in if block. Now if this condition turns out to be true, then the condition given in another if block will be evaluated, and based upon that the code of block will be executed. Now we can understand this concept better with the help of an example. So let's see an example first. So here you can see a simple example. In this example, what we are doing, we are checking whether the given number from the user is divisible by both 5 or 6 or not. So what we are doing, first we are taking input from user of integer data type and we are storing it in the num variable. Then we are using this if block to check whether the number is divisible by 5 or not. If the number is divisible by 5, within this if block we have taken another if block, and this one is checking whether the number is divisible by 6. Now if the number is divisible by 6, then it will return this statement, number is divisible by both 5 and 6. Else it will return number is divisible by 5 but not 6. And if number is not even divisible by 5, it will simply return number is not divisible by 5. So let me execute this cell. So first let's put 30. Now we all know 30 is divisible by both 5 and 6. So if I click enter, you can see it returns this result. The number is divisible by both 5 and 6. Let me execute this cells again, and this time I will put 22. Hit enter, and you can see the result, number is not divisible by 5. Now next let's understand about shorthand if statement. Now when we require to execute only one statement within the if block, then in such cases we can utilize the shorthand if. It basically helps to specify single code block and the condition of the if statement in the same line. So how we can use this shorthand if statement? Let's discuss this thing with the help of an example. So here you can see the same example which we have implemented for if statement. So where we are taking age as an input from the user, and based upon the age we were telling whether the user is eligible for voting or not. Now shorthand if is very simple to use. What we are doing, we are defining this if block, defining the expression. After colons, we define the code of block for the if in this same line. And in the last, we are using this print statement to print the voting eligibility. So if I run, let's put 39 as input, hit enter. You can see it is working absolutely fine. Voting eligibility returns to be true. Now, just like shorthand if, we can also use shorthand if else. So if both for if as well as else block, we have only one statement to execute. So in that case, we can use this shorthand if statement. So what we can do by using it, we will define the complete statement in only one line. So how we can do this? Let us discuss an example. Now here also we are repeating our previous example where we are checking whether the given number was multiple of 5 or not. So here we have taken the input and we are storing it in the x variable. Now to use the shorthand if else statement, first we need to define the statement. that we generally define within the if block. So I have defined here print multiple of 5. So if the condition given in the if block turns out to be true, then this statement will be executed. After this statement, we need to define our actual if expression. So we use the if keyword, then we have defined the expression. We are checking whether the number is divisible by 5 or not. And after this, we use this else keyword. And just after the else keyword, we put the statement that we want to execute within the else block. So we want to print that the number is not divisible by 5. Now here note this thing, we are not using any colons in between. We have defined this complete statement in one line. Now if I execute this cell and let me put 30 initially and hit enter. So 30 is a multiple of 5. Let me execute this as one again and put 67 and hit enter. You can see not a multiple of 5. So with this we have come to the end of this tutorial session. In the next one we will discuss how we can use loops in Python. So thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one.